to our first episode of Pro Toolery with Steve Mortimer. This is a channel where we give fans and young athletes an opportunity to connect deeply with their favorite Major League Baseball players by giving them an intimate understanding of the mental and physical tools that their favorite players use to get to the major leagues and stay there. And then also we give players an opportunity and give them a platform from which they can share the mental processes they use and the specific equipment they use that helps them perform at their best every night throughout the most arduous season in professional sports, a 162-game Major League Baseball season. So today, I have the honor and the distinguishment of sitting next to an old friend, Jim Henderson here, who is now pitching out of the bullpen for the New York Mets. Jim, first off, I want to say I'm really excited that you're here. I appreciate you sitting down with me, and just overall, how are you doing?
Doing good. It's good to be back in Milwaukee, where it started for me, and good to be back in the big leagues on top of it all.
Yeah, it's a really interesting town. It's my first time in Milwaukee. I was going to say that we are at an undisclosed location, and based on the atmosphere here, you can see it's pretty interesting. But we're both staying in pretty old school hotels downtown, and I watched the Mets play the Brewers tonight, and it's just good to see Jim again. So a little bit of history here. I first met Jim in 2003. We were playing for the Vermont Expos, so that's how long we've known each other, back when the Expos were actually a thing. So Jim played for the Expos for probably 3 or 4 seasons?
4 seasons, yeah.
So Jim played for the Expos for 4 seasons, and then we were with them both for the changeover to the Nationals. I was unfortunately released in 2007 and then went on and played independent ball for a little bit and played in South America a little bit, and then went and got what they call a normal job and started a family and whatnot, which is definitely the good life. But Jim has been grinding for a long time. So what I want to start out with is just tell us a little bit about where you were drafted out of, what round you were drafted in, and just how long you were in the minor leagues.
Yeah, drafted out of Tennessee Wesleyan, NAIA school.
What city is that in?
Athens, Tennessee.
And what's the mascot?
Bulldog.
The home of the Bulldogs, yeah. The Tennessee Wesleyan Bulldogs. Okay.
Yeah. Probably one of 2 guys drafted out of that conference. We weren't very talented, but 26th round to the Expos. Did the Vermont thing the first year, did the extended spring training, and Vermont the second year, which is hard to do. And you're a college guy, and you have to repeat short season twice.
Yeah,
it's not a good thing.
So if I can interject, so if you don't know what extended spring training is, it's basically for guys that go to spring training, but they know they're only going to make the short season A team. So when all the low A, high A, double A, and triple A guys leave camp, you stay for another 2 months, and you play 14-inning games. Sometimes you play double headers in the heat of the Florida or Arizona sun, and the only people that watch you play are the umpires that are there working as well. So we did go through extended spring training together, which was a really interesting experience.
It's a bonding experience.
It is.
Yeah.
It's bonding.
Yeah.
So then we went to Vermont, and we did a season there, so short season in Vermont, and then we did Savannah 2005 for the Savannah Sand Gnats, which is another great mascot. And then we did a season together in Woodbridge, Virginia in 2006.
Yeah.
And then Jim was Rule 5 to the Cubs.
Yeah.
So overall, minor league career, what does that look like? How many games? What were your experiences? How many years in the minor leagues?
11 total now. It was 10 years before I made it to the big leagues, and then last year I was in the minor leagues for pretty much the whole season after my second shoulder surgery. Try to come back from that. So, yeah, tough, but wouldn't do anything else.
You could probably write a book. You could probably write 2 books.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to talk about, one thing that's always going to be a commitment of Pro Toolery is to talk about some of the mental processes that the highest level baseball players go through. So Jim made the transition from being a starting pitcher to turning into a bullpen guy, which was really impactful for your career and gave you a place that you could really call home out of the bullpen. So I want to talk about what was it like to be a starting pitcher your whole life and mentally approach a game where it's like, okay, I'm going to try to get 6 innings out of my arm tonight, 7 innings out of my arm. How does that mentally compare to I might just face 3 batters tonight in 1 inning with the game on the line? How is the mentality different from being a starter to a bullpen guy?
Yeah. I was used to being a starter in college, and I would, I'd pretty much pitch complete games every time in college, and that's what you would get out of your ace, I guess, of your college team. And then I go to the minor leagues, and you throw your schedule's a little off. You're throwing every 5th day instead of every 7th day, and your arm doesn't bounce back like it used to. You got to throw those bullpens in between starts, and it's kind of an eye opener to kind of how your body responds to starting and everything. And So that, it was actually tough for me. Some guys, I think starting pitchers right now, big league starting pitchers are freaks. I don't, how they can go out there and throw 100+ pitches every fifth day is incredible to me. How good a shape they are in, and mentally being able to get through it. So for me, going to the bullpen was awesome. I mean, when I first went to the bullpen, it was some adjustments, and I would kind of be the long reliever, especially coming out of a starter, to be a long reliever. But once I got a taste of pitching that one inning, that was it for me. And that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to go out and pitch one inning, be a setup guy, closer. You're in an intense situation, kind of like you would be as a starter. You kind of get that feeling that this is my time, and you get a chance to do that every second, third day as a bullpen guy. And that was just fun, and that was what I thrived on and still thrive on to this day.
And it was kind of the first time in your career where you could really give every pitch 100% of your commitment for every pitch, because you didn't have to worry about being in the game over the long haul.
Yeah.
And so that was when your velocity really jumped too.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So you make the transition from being a starter to being a bullpen guy, or you end up going through a shoulder surgery. So you go through your first shoulder surgery, and you had been in the minor leagues for probably 5 or 6 years at that time.
Yeah.
What kept you coming back to baseball, and what kept you during that rehab time saying to yourself, I know this is what I want to do. I just need to keep grinding and get ready for spring training. What was it that kept you coming back to the game, even through that challenge?
Yeah, well, as you know, like when you're playing, it's it's tough. It's a grind and everything, but at least you're playing. At least you get to play under the lights in front of 2,000 fans or whatever you get in the minor
That's
leagues.
pretty good.
But it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
Like you look back and you're like, and you have guys coming out of the complex and you're rehabbing, and they're kind of complaining about the minor leagues and this and that, and the stuff that you used to be complaining about, you start realizing that's kind of what I want to be doing. Though you're hurt and you have to sit out and you have to do all this hard work and rehab, that you want to get back and actually contribute and play and get back and into a game. So, but it's a lot of hard work too. The rehab's grueling, and all the work you got to do with the arms, and they want you to even be in better shape than when you were before your injury. So they run you harder. They make you go in the weight room, work harder there too. So when you get done with the whole rehab process, you don't owe it to them anymore. You owe it to yourself to go back and try to get back into the game. So that's kind of what my mental process was through not only my first surgery, but my second surgery, was to get, I owed it to myself. Whether I had to play independent ball or go back to the minor leagues or do whatever I had to do, I wanted to play the next season, at least just play one more season. And so this hard work wasn't just a waste.
So the shoulder surgery kind of gave you a new perspective that no matter where I am under the lights, I just want to be under the lights again.
Yeah, you just want to play.
So at this point, you've been in AA, you've been in AAA, and now you find yourself back in Low A, which you had played with me way back in 2005. And now we're getting close to 2010, 2011, and you're finding yourself back in Low A, and you're a veteran presence on a team with a whole new perspective. And then you kind of build your career back up, and through a course of a lot of crazy circumstances, which we discussed, you end up getting that call up to the major leagues with the Milwaukee Brewers. In what year?
2012.
Can you just take me back to that moment, where you were and what it was like to get that call, walking into the Major League clubhouse, and then finally running out to the mound and throwing that first pitch in a Major League Baseball game?
Yeah. I was in AAA with Nashville. I was on a roll, I had played 10 years in the minors, and I guess at that point you have to do something spectacular to open up some eyes, So I had a really good year, having a good year, and the manager called a team meeting, brought all the guys together, and he looked at me and he said, you keep a jersey on your back, you keep grinding, you keep playing, you give yourself an opportunity. He said, you're going to the big leagues. We hopped on the plane the next morning, and we had a day game against the Washington Nationals, which was your old organization. The old organization that it was drafted by.
And you knew a lot of guys on that team, or a few guys on that team, yeah.
And that was big for me, actually, because I ran out to that big league mound. I looked up and I had pitched to LaCroix the night before in AAA, and stepping up to the plate was Roger Bernardina, who we played with with the Nationals.
Roger Veen,
And even though I was obviously nervous and everything was going, but there was some familiarity with the.
You're like, Roger's here, I'm here. It's all good.
It was good, so it got me through that outing. I bet just to kind of have those guys to throw against and throw.
That's really interesting how that worked out. So your first That's a really interesting story. So your first major league experience was against your old organization that you had been drafted by.
Yeah.
And a few of the guys that you would come up through the minor leagues with.
Yeah. So
That's a really interesting story. All right, so now you've been in the big leagues with the Brewers, and you have a pretty good run where you become the Brewers' established closer. The velocity is there. You feel more established in the major leagues than you ever have at that point. And then you come back to spring training in 2014, and you're having a tough time getting loose.
Yeah.
It's just not, something just isn't right. Not necessarily pain, but you feel that there's kind of a setback.
Yeah.
So you go get the shoulder checked out again, and you've got your second shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
So what is it like to get that news and get that MRI and have a doctor go, we got to go back in there?
Yeah, it's tough. We were in first place. We're on a roll, too. I tried to rehab without surgery for a while, and then just kind of had to give into it after a couple of rehab assignments and couldn't get through the outings. And,
So then you're looking at a year at that point.
yeah, so then, so you lost, so pretty much lost all 2014.
Yeah.
You can't do anything when your body says you can't do it anymore.
Yep. So you have the second shoulder surgery, and then you find yourself no longer a Milwaukee Brewer.
Yeah, I knew it was coming, and so yeah, once I said I was good to go, they took me off the roster, but they're still paying me, so I had to play in AAA last year, but I knew I had to play anyways to stay relevant in the game.
Yep.
I couldn't miss 2 years in a row.
You had to stay under the lights.
Yeah.
So then you spend the offseason as a free agent, and the Mets have seen you because Port St. Lucie is right down the hill, right down the street from Vieira. So they've seen you when you were young, and then your name in the National League is prominent at this point. You're known as a dependable, hard-throwing, tall, lanky, athletic righty, would you say? So you go into spring training with the Mets. What are you thinking? You're thinking this is a good roster.
This is a World Series team. I'm looking at all the guys who were in the bullpen last year. They all had great numbers.
Yeah, it's a good team.
And I have to prove myself again. Not only that I'm healthy, but I can get back to where I was before, which is crazy. And and all the guys on the team had great numbers the year before, and I was just thinking, well, let's just kind of see if I can get through the spring healthy. And I was very willing to go back to AAA because I just look at, like I said, I look at the business side. And I was like, well, I got to prove myself. So, over the course of a month of spring training, how much can you prove that you're back to normal?
Mm-hmm.
But it was good enough in that 1 month that the velocity was there. At times, got up to 96 miles an hour in spring, which is big, and made the team again.
So now here we are today in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and here we are at Miller Park where you were 3 years ago playing for the Brewers, and all these different circumstances kind of come together, and you find yourself in the bullpen for one of the best teams in the National League. It's a pretty amazing story. So for all you fans at home and all you kids at home, you got a guy here who was a 25th or 26th? 26th rounder out of Tennessee Wesleyan, NAIA, that's below Division III, and then who spends 11 years in the minors, 2 shoulder surgeries. But what he talked about is that he loved the game, and that his injuries gave him the perspective that all he really wanted to do was just stay under the lights. And here he is pitching at the highest level in the best baseball league in the entire world. So that mental fortitude and the stick-to-itiveness that Jim has, he's definitely been rewarded for. And I can tell you as a personal friend, this is one of the good guys right here. So this is really great. All right, so now that we've talked about the mental side, the other thing I want to talk about is the equipment that Jim uses, right? So there's a lot of different glove companies and cleat companies and bat companies out there that I don't think baseball fans necessarily understand too deeply. And I couldn't get Jim to bring his equipment back to the hotel here because I know baseball players are superstitious and they don't want to pack too much stuff around, which I totally appreciate because I remember how it was. But he was kind enough to take some pictures. So we'll put some pictures of the equipment up and we'll just talk about it really quick. So let's first start with the leather. So a lot of people would say, well, you're a pitcher. How much does your glove really matter, right? But as you can see here, Jim is using the Rawlings Pro Preferred, which is a very popular brand in the Major League these days. You have kind of a black model and then kind of a really light tan model. And the leather is known for being it takes a long time to break in, but it has deer skin on the inside, if I'm correct. I know my Pro Preferred does. So they have, a lot of the Pro Preferreds have deer skin on the inside and the leather's really hard. So the thing I want to talk about is, were you always a Rawlings guy your entire career?
No. You just get whatever is handed to you.
Yeah.
I loved Mizuno. I loved Mizuno gloves for the longest time. I don't do anything with my gloves. I just put them on and let them fall into my hand.
Play catch.
Play catch. Some are stiffer than others, but but eventually it just breaks in and molds to your hand the way you want it. And the Mizuno just did that. It's a little heavier, a little bit of leather, you know, and you kind of bring your front arm up with your glove. It is a little heavier, you're lifting a little bit more, but I love the way it formed. The only problem was, once it got to the big leagues, Mizuno wants you to wear their cleats as well, which I wasn't a fan of.
So you went to Rawlings Pro Preferred, and you got the what I would call a hinge web, totally closed, which obviously hides any playing you're doing with the ball.
Yeah.
And you've been a Pro Preferred guy for now, what, 5-6 years?
Yeah. I ordered a Heart of the Hide this spring, because you get a few gloves a year, and I put it on. I play catch with it, you know, during the day, but it's not my gamer.
Okay.
Because the Heart of the Hide leather is kind of softer and kind of just flops around a bit more.
Yeah, that Pro Preferred leather is really thick.
Pro
Really good
Preferred
stuff.
is stiffer, and it's good.
All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is these New Balance cleats, which we're going to show a picture here of, and this is really interesting to me, right? If you would have told me 10 years ago New Balance is going to have a strong presence in Major League Baseball in 10 years, I would have said there's just no way. But you look at these guys. I've seen Pedroia wearing New Balances. I saw who was it? I saw a bunch of New Balances on the field tonight. So what is it about these New Balance cleats that's allowing them to have such a good stronghold in Major League Baseball right now?
Yeah, they jumped in and kind of they weren't going to compete with the big companies, the Nikes and Reebok at the time, and Adidas. They came in and they just grabbed a hold of the younger guys coming up. The guys who just come up and you know you're not established, you're not a superstar. And they just grabbed these guys. They threw them their cleats. You know, outfitted them. They gave them a little bit of money. And when you just get called up and somebody's going to give you a couple grand to wear their stuff, you're like, okay, this is great.
But there's something that's keeping people wearing them, because there's some established guys wearing them too.
Yeah, they're not bad. They're actually pretty good. And New Balance is pretty known for their running shoes. Their running shoes are comfortable, and their cleats are just as comfortable. And I would. And if you see the picture now, the New Balance cleats that I wear, it's a little flashy for me, a little color.
It's got a little orange on it.
But yeah. So.
What do you jog in? Because you got to do a lot of running during the season. Are you jogging in a New Balance running shoe as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's kind of a New Balance package.
Yeah, they got the fresh foam running shoes that seem very popular. It's got a big chunk of foam at the bottom, but they're comfy. They're like
lots of padding.
Yeah, running on a cloud. Yeah.
So this is interesting. So when you're watching Major League Baseball here this season, just look how many guys, both new guys and established big leaguers, are wearing New Balance baseball cleats. Very unpredictable. I did not see it coming, but it's a movement. Same with Under Armour, although maybe to a little bit of a lesser degree. You're seeing a lot of New Balance on the field. Okay, now you guys might not know this, but Jim is about 6'4", 6'5", and a very athletic guy. So back in the day, we used to go dunk the basketball on off days, and this guy can get up and move around, which I'm telling you, can also swing a baseball bat. So if the perfect situation happened in tomorrow's game, and you're in a National League pitcher, and you had to hit, what bat model would you choose? Would you choose maple or ash? And from your recollections, and if you still swing periodically, what is your model of choice for bats?
Definitely maple now.
Even though they split in 3 pieces when they break.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you hit the barrel, it feels real good.
It feels real nice.
Yeah.
It comes off real nice.
Yeah.
The model, I don't know. All I can think of on top of the head is C243.
C243.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for me, right, it would be something I could just handle right now.
Yeah. So would you have to, if you had to hit tomorrow, would you just go to one of your teammates and say, hey, I need a bat?
Yeah, I would probably just go to the bat rack and just see which one.
And everyone's okay with that?
Feel good, yeah.
That's pretty interesting. So a C243, for the fans at home, is a pretty thin handle with a nice knob on the bottom, and then the barrel's pretty pronounced at the end. So most of the weight is at the end, but it's a very popular bat because you get a really thin handle that feels good in the hand, but then you get a lot of barrel alongside with it. So, all right, so we've talked to Jim about his grind and all of the steps that he had to take and the various mental things that he had to go through to get to the major leagues. It's been a fantastic conversation. We were able to go through his equipment. He's a Rawlings Pro Preferred guy, although he's got the Heart of the Hide for power shagging during BP. He's wearing the New Balance cleats because they gave him a great deal, but also it's a high-performing shoe, and he's also jogging in the New Balance running shoes as well. And if he had to choose tomorrow, he'd choose a maple C243, somewhere in between 33 and 34 inches. Good bat to choose. All right, well, one thing that we have for you today, Jim, and it happens to match your team's uniforms, is an official Pro Toolery shirt for being our first episode participant. Again, I really appreciate you stopping by. It was great to see you again, and hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Good seeing you.
Thanks for stopping by Pro Toolery. We will hopefully do some more episodes in the future. Leave your comments in the comments section, and any questions you have, I'd be happy to answer. And it's always great to have you by. Again, this has been Pro Toolery. I'm Steve Mortimer. Jim Henderson. We're signing off. Thanks.